Good morning and welcome to In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am Kimberly Dixon. Typically, this is a Facebook Live at 9 a.m. on Facebook. However, this morning we have quite a bit of cloud cover and my internet won't connect. So I have tried to go live 3 times, tagged everybody, got everything all set up, hit the live button, and then it says can't connect, check your internet connection. Which I can do searches on my phone and stuff, but for whatever reason, what Facebook needs for it to go live isn't strong enough, and it's not allowing me to go live. But I didn't want to miss this opportunity to share this with you all this morning. So I'm just recording it, and I'll post the video, and please watch it, please share it, just as you normally would as if you were on this live. But it's been quite a while since I've done a live, and I apologize for my absence. But I think the last live I did was on Christmas Day when we were on vacation at Myrtle Beach. But I apologize for my absence. But right after that trip, I got sick. And so I was sick between the late part of December all through New Year's. Missed everything I had planned for New Year's, and I'd had stuff planned on my calendar since last year for New Year's Day. Didn't get to do New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Didn't get to do any of it because I was home in bed sick. So I apologize for not being with you all. And then on last week, I had a workshop in Ayden, North Carolina. So a special thank you to all the girls and boys that came out to the Girl Power workshop that we did on goal setting. It was a great turnout. We had a great time, and everybody got a lot from it. So during my absence, quite a few people actually reached out to me to see where I was, to make sure I was still doing them. So thank you to all of you all who reached out to me. In the meantime, while I was absent for Facebook, my podcast, Joyful Living Podcast, that shares inspirational stories of people who went through a trying time. They went through a real trial, but they were able to still keep their joy. That premiered on January the 1st. So I want to clarify some things. The Joyful Living Podcast is in addition to the Facebook Live that I do. That I will continue to do the Facebook Lives until God tells me otherwise. But I really want to share inspiring stories of everyday people through the podcast. So that will be in addition to what I do on Facebook. So thank you to everybody that listened. Some of you guys on the first, you heard the purpose of the Joyful Living Podcast. And then this past week, we had our first guest, which was Tara Henry. So thank you to everybody who joined in on Anchor FM or watched it on the video on YouTube. I really appreciate your support. Please, if you did not listen to it, go back and listen to the podcast on Anchor FM or go back and watch the video on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with everybody because I really want to get these amazing stories of people out. So today's topic is follow through. Please share the video. Even though this is not live, still share the video. People need to hear this. So in sports, follow through means that you continue your movement after you've hit the ball or you've thrown the ball. You continue with the movement. Follow through in life is very similar. It means basically to complete the action that you started. So imagine that in basketball, if you shoot your basket in basketball, if you shoot it just straight, it's likely to hit the rim and just bounce back at you. But if you shoot it and follow through the movement with your hand and your wrist, it is much more likely that you will make the shot. In life, follow through simply means you actually do what you said you were going to do. Do you make promises and then don't do them? Sometimes in life, bona fide emergencies, sometimes things do happen. But if you have a habit of telling people you will do something or you will come to something and you just don't do it or you don't show up, you have poor follow through. And when you don't have good follow through, you don't keep your word, it shows a lack of integrity. There are many components to integrity, but today I want to briefly discuss 5 of them. The first one is truthfulness. When you do what you say that you're going to do, that's a level of honesty. People can believe that you will do what you said you would do. It's just that simple. Number two is accountability. You hold yourself accountable to your own word. Nobody has to pester you to do what you said you were going to do. You do it because you already said it. You already know it. I don't have to remind you about it. You know you are accountable for what you said you were going to do. And three, integrity, it means you're reliable. You do what you said you were going to do. People can rely on your word. They can rely on you. And then the fifth part of integrity is humility, that you can admit when you're wrong. All of these components, they kind of overlap each other, yet they are different, but they all work together to make up integrity. Having poor follow through may seem like no big deal, but it has huge consequences. Please share the video. We're not live, but please share the video. Some of the consequences of poor follow through include, number one, it leads to hurt feelings. It's hurtful to others, and it makes them feel unimportant if you don't do what you said you were going to do. Regardless of what that thing was and how trivial it may seem to you, if you told somebody else, I'm going to do this thing for you, and you don't do it, it makes them feel unimportant. It hurts their feelings. It feels very personal. The second consequence of poor follow through is a lack of trust. Over time, people will begin to feel you are untrustworthy, and they will doubt you. And they won't just doubt you in some things, they will begin to doubt everything you say, because you've proven yourself over time that you have poor follow through. And the third consequence of poor follow through is bitterness. A pattern of broken promises to your spouse, to your children, and to your friends can lead to feelings of bitterness. If you're constantly telling your spouse, I'm going to take your car to the shop to get it fixed, or I'm going to fix the gutters, or whatever it may be, or you tell your children, I'm going to come to your concert, I'm going to come to your basketball game, I'm going to come to your art exhibit, and you don't show up. Or you tell your friends, yeah, I'm going to help you move, or I'm going to show up for your event, or I'm going to do whatever it may be. If you continue to do that and you don't show up, over time, that plants a seed of bitterness. Because sometimes you wonder as an adult why your adult children don't come to see you. And sometimes that can be because there's been a seed of bitterness that was planted a long time ago, and you planted it. But you thought it was no big deal when you said, I'm coming to the game, Timmy. The whole game, Timmy looked for you, but he never did see you. You never showed up. That planted a seed. And granted, you should go see your parents, but sometimes it's a consequence of the things that you've already done. Don't take your promises lightly. When you give somebody your word, or when you say, I promise, and they are counting on you, do it. So let me tell you a story briefly. I've always been a storyteller. So when I was a young kid on the way home walking home from school, I would make up these fantastical stories to tell my sister, because we got home around the same time. She would be getting off the bus and I would be walking home from school about the same time. So I would tell her these crazy stories, and she would be like, for real, Kim? Did that really happen? Then she'd stop and say, wait a minute, you promise? And if I started laughing, she knew it was a story that I just made up just to entertain her. But if I said, I promise, she knew that story was real, and it was something that really did happen, or something that I did encounter. I took my promises. I kept my word. I took my promises to heart. I didn't take that lightly. So she knew that if I wouldn't promise, and the same thing to this day, if I promise I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything in my will to make sure that it happens. Having integrity means that you keep your promises, even if it doesn't serve you. For instance, the situation, in the beginning, the situation was going to be beneficial, going to have a huge benefit for you. But something changed and it's no longer going to benefit you the way you thought, but yet you promised another person that you were going to do something. Still keep your word. Keep your word anyway. When people can take you at your word, it builds dependability and trust and confidence in the relationship. When you don't follow through on your promises, when you don't keep your word, whether that's professionally or personally, it damages the relationship. It will leave a mark. It will leave a scar. And sometimes the relationship will end simply because you don't follow through. Proverbs 25:14 says, people who promise things they never give are like clouds and wind that bring no rain. Can you imagine needing rain, expecting rain, but it never arrives? When you tell someone, for instance, that I will help you move, but then you don't show up, you were like the cloud and the wind, but you never produced any rain. They needed rain. They needed you. Show up, keep your word, operate with integrity. Psalms 15:4 says, God blesses people that keep their word even when it hurts. We want and need the blessings of God to rain down on us. Don't miss your own blessings because you won't keep your word. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you say yes, I'll be there to help. I'm sorry, the wind is blowing. Help you move or whatever the situation may be, then be there. Put it on your calendar and then show up. Don't say yes and not follow through. If you can't do it or you simply don't want to do it, say no. Being told no never killed anybody. But saying yes, I will be there, and then canceling at the last minute, showing up 2 hours late. And this is in an instance if you're helping somebody move, or not showing up at all, teaches people that you're not dependable. It teaches them that you're untrustworthy. Once you have a stigma like that attached to you, it's attached to your name, it's hard to undo that. It's not impossible, but why have to fix your reputation if you can avoid it to begin with? And lastly, I want to leave you with this. Psalms 119:11 says, I have stored up your words in my heart that I might not sin against you. Here, the psalmist David is saying that he has stored God's word in his heart, so David, doesn't sin against God. Now imagine that God is storing our words in his heart. Can you imagine how that feels when his kids don't keep their word? When we don't follow through, we aren't keeping our word. As parents, you feel disappointed when your child lies to you. I don't know about you, but I don't want to ever disappoint my father. Not my earthly father, and surely not my heavenly father. Follow through. Do what you said you were going to do. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not speaking in reference to emergency situations. Emergencies happen occasionally. Let me say that again. Emergencies happen occasionally. That shouldn't be your fallback every time you give your word. Something came up, such and such happened. Oh man, I was coming, but yada, 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 yada. Follow through. Be somebody that is dependable, trustworthy, and accountable. Operate with integrity. God is well pleased when you keep your word. Please share the video. Thank you for watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am Kimberly Dixon. Although we weren't live this morning, please watch the video. Please share the video. Please check out the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, or YouTube. It will be available on more platforms by the end of the month or early February. But it's the beginning of the year, so there are lots of things premiering, and it takes a little while to get them on some to the other ones. Be sure to watch it. It'll come out every Wednesday at 5 p.m. on Anchor FM, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, share it, like the video, share the video on the other platforms, subscribe to them, click the support button on Anchor FM to become a monthly sponsor. You can sponsor the podcast for less than a cup of coffee, and most of which you probably wasted away because you got it and forgot about it and it got cold and you didn't want it. So become a monthly sponsor. Your sponsorship will help us share the testimonies and the stories of people all over the region, whether that's South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. It will cover getting better recording equipment as well as some of the travel expenses related to sharing this story. So please go out, support the podcast, continue to watch In the Garden with Joyful Living. Not live this morning. Technology is a beautiful thing when it works. It would not work this morning, so I'm coming to you from a recorded video, but please still watch the video. Please share it as you always do. Thank you for watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. There really wasn't anything in the garden to show you this morning because it's winter time. Everything has died except for the pansy. Pansy is still doing well. It's still hanging on. But thank you for watching, guys. I love you. Bye-bye.